Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Maybe I Can podcast. I'm your host, Debbie Weiss, and I am here with my guest today. Morgana Rae is the international #1 best-selling author of Financial Alchemy, 12 Months of Magic and Manifestation. Nice, I like that. If you're listening, she's holding up the book. And again, wonderful. She was voted Best Coach of 2022 for tangible results. She's regarded to be the world's #1 authority on transforming relationship with money. A favorite guest on television, radio, and print, Morgana's fans call her the money goddess because of the many documented examples of clients making unexpected income of 4, 5, 6, and even 7 figures within hours of changing their relationship with money. A pioneer in personal development for close to 30 years, Morgana writes, speaks, and coaches from a desire to empower idealistic entrepreneurs, artists, healers, and humanitarians to have a big impact in the world and to heal the rift between heart, spirit, and money. Oh my goodness. Well, welcome. I was going to say in the middle of that intro, okay, within hours of changing their relationship with money, I hope you can change my relationship with money and all the listeners in the time that we have together.
I will do my best.
Okay, I appreciate that. So, as I ask all my guests, my first question to you is, can you share with us a time where you shifted from I can't attitude to a more empowered I can mindset?
Many, many, many times. And for the sake of this interview, I'm going to focus on the money piece.
Okay.
Because I got into this niche with money never by intention. I mean, I majored in religion in college. Wasn't a business major. I was always into the spiritual healing stuff. And I became a coach because, again, my default is I'm a people helper and I feel the pain of others and I want to help. And so coaching was just a really delicious match for me. And where I got stuck was making money, like poster child for financial failure, even with the Ivy League degree and half a dozen coaching certifications and movie star clients and mountains of testimonials and all the business stuff, the website, the business cards, the brochures, because we're talking so long ago that people used to have these trifold paper things called brochures, right? And public speaking and all the stuff, right? And 20 years ago, in March of 2003, I was struggling to make $100 a month with all that, doing everything you're supposed to do. And I was taking all the classes. That's why I kept getting more certifications, more trainings. I would take more business classes, more marketing classes. I was working with a coach, which is insane because I was living in Los Angeles, one of the most expensive cities in the world, making $100 a month. And everything I did, nothing was moving the dial. And it was desperate. And I was living on credit card debt. I was borrowing from family. I was supposed to be an adult in my 30s. I'm just laying out all the shame right here for you to see. This is my before picture.
Right.
And being in Los Angeles, not only was I taking all the coaching classes and business classes, and it was still a really new field. And I was on the cutting edge of it back in those days where somebody asked you what you were, and I'd say a coach, and they'd ask what sport, right? But I was also tapped into LA is one of the world capitals of woo. So I had these friends who would wave their hands and change my money DNA and do breath work and visualizations and vision boards and mantras. I was doing all of it and failing at all of it, like huge L on my forehead. No matter what I did, business, spiritual, nothing was working. And I hit this moment where I had just taken a class on overcoming objections. That's what it's called. And what that means is there are classes that will teach you the magic words. And I'm, doing the magic hand thing, which I tend to do. I speak with my hands. They'll teach you the magic words to say when somebody says, oh, I'd love to, but I can't afford it, or I don't have time, or whatever, right? So this was like my last gasp at hope, my Hail Mary. I took this class on overcoming sales objections. I learned the magic words. I'm a good student. I mean, I graduated as a National Merit Scholar from high school with a head injury and a coma and homelessness and all that kind of stuff. So I can learn scripts for overcoming objections. And I use them. And here's the thing, I use the magic words. And 7 people in a row, I overcame their objections and they said, yes, they were going to work with me. And here's the punchline. 7 people in a row did not show up for our first coaching session and didn't pay me a dime.
Oh, my.
And it was when I was stood up that 7th time, I lost it. Like, no more hope. What's the point of living? Because I couldn't. I knew what I finally knew what I was here to do, what I was good at. I had mountains of success stories and I couldn't make a living, and I was never going to be able to make a living. And I panicked and I freaked and my heart broke. And I remember being in my little teeny tiny apartment that I could not afford, pulling those blackout curtains, crypting out the room, getting on my bed and screaming and crying and wailing and raging. And I really felt like the universe hated me, had set me up. Like I was the unloved stepchild of the universe. And I didn't like the universe back, and I didn't want to be alive. And that's how deep that feeling of rejection and fear and abandonment and hopelessness goes.
Wow.
And I cried myself out. And when I just had no more tears and no more screams, I had 2 thoughts. By the way, this is not where the change happened, but this is like right before the change. One thought was, well, maybe if I made money my next area of spiritual growth, air quotes here, if I hid money in spirituality and made it my next area of spiritual growth, maybe then I could deal with money. Because I'm the kind of person, if it's people or money, I always gravitate towards people. And lots of hangups about money that I wasn't even conscious of it at the time. Which leads to the second thought that I had, which was, what the heck is going on inside of me that can't be with money, because this does not make sense. I was getting far better results for my clients. I was working with new actors, new writers, new directors with no credits. And I would work with them for a month and bang, actress is in a huge Denzel Washington movie and then a series regular on a primetime hit. And this actor wins an Emmy, and this director sells his first film for $1 million, which at that time was a lot of money, and stuff like that very, very quickly. And I'm making nothing, right? So the next day I had a call with my coach. Again, crazy, making no money. And I had a coach, and I have to say, thank goodness, because it saved my life. And I'd been working with him for months. He and I graduated and got our certifications on the same day at the same place. We were peers, but he owned a house and was making money, and I was drowning. And for months, I would do everything he suggested, and I would do it well, and it didn't work. Not his fault. It didn't matter what I did. But on this day, I had my call with him, and he, instead of suggesting an action, he asked me a really weird question like I had never heard before. And this is where you want to lean in, because this is where the change happened. He said to me, Morgana, if your money was a person, who would your money be? And because I was in so much pain and drama and agony and, rejection and fear and hopelessness and unloved, unwanted, unsafe, powerless way of being, as soon as he asked me that question, I saw this person in my mind's eye, and he was big and scary and dirty and violent. He looked like a biker, and he was bald, and he had the long sideburns and the white beater shirt and the tattoos and all that kind of stuff. Nothing wrong with bikers. This one was bad. And he felt so real to me. And I saw myself in my mind's eye as if I were at a live event with my eye on him all the time to create maximum distance for safety. And that was my huge aha moment. Suddenly, it all made sense, because I was aware that it didn't matter what I did. It didn't matter how many public speeches I did or how many sample sessions I did or articles I put out there or what. It didn't matter because my entire being was pushing money away unconsciously to protect me as if my life depended on it because this money monster was so bad. And we can go into the root causes of that later when I walk you through the steps.
Right.
But I just knew this was bad and deadly. And I couldn't, and there was no way that I could ever have money in my life if that was my money. That relationship had to end. I had to get rid of that guy, that totally imaginary guy who represented my relationship with money. Now, there's a funny thing about solutions because they kind of usually go, yay, oh heck, there's a new problem. So I got rid of the monster, yay, oh heck, I live in LA and now I have no relationship with money. All of this is going through my mind within minutes, right? Who could I be willing to have in my life? Who could I want so much that I'd be willing to have this person in my life, even if it's money? And that probably sounds odd to you, but if your only relationship with money to date, to this point in time, has been soul crushing and rejecting and disappointing, like a bad boyfriend who cheats on you and abuses you and tells you that this is the best you're ever going to get. If you've ever been in that kind of relationship where you really, really believe that you aren't worth any better, you know that you don't want to get into that again, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what this relationship with money felt like. It felt like an abuser who made me feel worthless and powerless. And I didn't want that. So I needed something totally different. So I asked myself, who could I want so much that I'd be willing to have, that I want this person in my life, even if it's money? And when I asked that question, again, by the way, I'm like really, really bad at visualizations. If you ask me to sit by a river, I will spend the next 45 minutes like going through a slideshow of every river I've ever seen in my life, trying to pick the right one. But when your emotions are like that high, it just pops. So it's not an intellectual exercise because I was in so much pain and the monster was so real and the monster was so gone. When I asked myself, well, who could I want instead? The new person showed up like that. And my new money was this cute, sweet, clean cut, on the young side, but adult, hunky, adorable, romantic sweetheart who was dressed in a tuxedo and carrying a bouquet of red flowers, who was in love with me and wanted to woo me.
Wow.
Like on a scale of 1 to 10, 1,000 young, right? And felt safe and loved me and wanted to be with me. And that brought up a new issue. Remember, yay, oh dear. You know, that thing is like, wait a second. This guy really wants to be with me, and I have no idea how to allow money to be with me because I have such strong muscles of repulsion for so many years of pushing the monster away. So I didn't know. I could feel how much it broke his heart when I rejected him and pushed him away. And I knew he wanted to be with me. And I was really aware at that moment that I didn't know how to allow money to be with me. So I asked. That's the fun thing about having money as this delicious person. And I asked him, what do you need from me to allow you to be with me? Now, I know a lot of people mishear that question as, what do you need in order to love me? That's not the question at all. Number one rule of this new relationship with money is this new money already loves you and loves you more than anybody else in the world and chooses you. This is your money, honey. It's unconditional love. Love is unconditional. Presence, however, is conditional. I am the gatekeeper. I can push him away or I can let him in. I just didn't know how, so I asked. I said, what do you need from me to allow you to be with me the way you want to be with me? And the great thing about the brain is when you ask a question, you get an answer. And in that moment in time, my first time, March of 2003, he said, I need you to love me. And I need you to stop treating me like a monster. And that felt so sweet and so reasonable. And I also have to address the whole love of money is the root of all evil, like, because that's popping into everybody's mind. So, a couple of things. I have a friend who studied ancient Aramaic specifically to find out about that phrase. And what she reported back to me so that I didn't have to do the work is that the original translation literally said that worshiping money is like a false idol. Worshiping money is going to cause you problems. And I would say, yeah. So that's not what we're talking about. So love, love itself is never evil. Love does not harm. Love does not exploit. Love does not trick. Love does not abuse. Love is not scarcity. Love is not envy. Love is generous. Love is like my cup runneth over. There's a selflessness and a happiness and a nobility and a generosity to it. Love is our best selves. Whether you want to say it's when we're like within our divinity or connection to source or just our best selves. That's what love is. That's what I mean when I talk about love. In this case, just being a kind and loving, respectful, caring relationship partner. And this time to my life partner, Money, who, by the way, being my money honey, shares my values. I want to save the world. He does too. He wants to help me do it. No conflict. So he wants me to love him and he wants me to stop treating him like a monster. Sounds very reasonable. So immediately I was thinking of, well, how have I been treating money like a monster? And it's like really obvious all of a sudden for the first time in my life. Every time somebody would ask me what I charged, I would go like, and I'd get so like filled with shame and anxiety and fear and worry that I'd be causing harm and embarrassment and they'll think I don't care about them. And it was like I had this huge, stinky, embarrassing monster like right there that I didn't want anyone to know about, but everybody could feel, right? But now it's this sweet, loving guy who wants to save the world with me, wants me to love him and stop pushing him away when he brings me gifts. So I made an agreement and I agreed that next time he brought me a gift, which would look usually like a client, I would say thank you. And what that would look like in practical terms was, what's your fee? This is my fee. And I would just share it with that energy of love and like, isn't he beautiful? And I got to test it out. This is the crazy part. Within 24 hours, 4 people reached out to me wanting to hire me. And so I started having these phone calls. And we would get to that moment where they want to know what I charge or the euphemism, how do you work, which took me forever to figure out that that's code for what do you charge?
Right.
Slow learner here, right? So we would get to that moment and I would and say my fee, and then I would shut up, which if you've heard how quickly and incessantly I talk, you can imagine how difficult that is for me.
Oh, yeah. I have that problem too.
But when they get all quiet, that means they're figuring out how to make it work. This is what I know now, right? But at the time, it was like so painful because I could feel like all those old words and evasive techniques bubbling up. And this time, my first call was like, I just shut up. And like, imagine sitting on my hands and biting my tongue while I'm on the phone. And they said yes. And they sent me a check. And then the next one said yes. And 4 people in a row hired me at double what I'd ever charged. And then they kept coming. And I started group coaching and I wrote books and I created online programs and I started leading my goddess retreats in Bali and all that kind of stuff. And I have made millions of dollars since then. And I'm the person who was struggling to make $100 a month. And even that was looking a little sketchy.
All right. So I have to stop you because I have several thoughts, questions. So one, I just think that what you just described is really hits home with me personally because my listeners don't know, but I'm launching a group coaching program. And yesterday, somebody who's helping me with it said, well, what's the price? And I told her the price. And I was thinking to myself, oh my goodness, I'm sure she's going to think now she's not a potential customer, right? So I'm thinking, oh, is she going to think that's too high? Is she going to think that's too low? And she said to me, where did you come up with that number? And I said to her, well, I remember when I joined my first group coaching program and I heard the number, I almost choked. And in the end, I wound up doing it, and it's the best thing that I've ever done. But until I was able to take that step, and I said, so I wasn't comfortable making that number, and I wasn't comfortable. Well, I was comfortable making it lower, but knew that that was no good either. So I kind of found that happy medium. And she said, because when I saw that number, if you break it down, this is extremely low that people are paying you for your time. And I was like, I know, but it's the first time. And I don't want to, and I had all of these excuses, just exactly what you described, because I am like dying to come out with this number that everyone else is telling me is too low. So that's one thing.
Okay, I have to jump in here.
Go ahead.
Okay, so back in 2007, when I was still charging too little, although it was multiples, so much higher than it was back in 2003, but it was still too low, right? And I was scared because, especially with my niche, I had this idea that nobody could afford me. Now people pay me $50,000 or $70,000, and I have the same niche. But at the time, I was stuck at around $375 a month back in, I think it was 2007. And I got an email from a total stranger who saw my testimonials of this person made 6 figures, that person made 7 figures, this person made this amount overnight, blah, blah, blah. And he said, I don't believe your results because you're charging so little. And my low rate was literally repulsing people. And then I acquired a billionaire mentor for a few months who also told me to raise my rates. It was like they were all my money, honey, and all these outsiders were ganging up on me. And then I took this awful course across the country that I didn't really learn anything from the teacher, but on the ride back to the airport with one of the other students. And while I'm in this course, I'm getting emails from clients who said, I just made my first $1 million, right? I get these emails. And I shared it with the group, and they didn't really know what they did. They thought I was a law of attraction coach. I'm not. I teach financial alchemy. This is the art of transmuting lead and human experience into spiritual and material gold, and not a high vibes only person. Obviously, we go really deep into the lead. But anyway,
Right.
So she told me, for what I do, you can't even charge less than $1,000 or $1,500 and be taken seriously. So overnight, I changed my rate from $375 to $1,500. And here's the funny thing. This was August of 2007. And I had just tried to get clients, and I'm totally bombed at the 375 because it was out of integrity. And that's honestly, in retrospect, that would be not what my money honey would want me to charge. In fact, he even said to me that he doesn't even know how to be with such low denominations when I slayed another monster and all that. So overnight, I just gave myself this huge raise from, instead of $375 a month, to $1,500 for a single session. And I picked up 15 clients like that and had my first $20,000 month. And then after that, I had my first $30,000 month, and then my first $50,000 month the third month. So I made $100,000 in 3 months for the first time. You need to charge enough to inspire people to whatever it is that they like. My sweet spot is when my clients feel stretched enough that they can't afford for it to not work, because then they're all in. And that is so good for me as a coach for getting these big dramatic results. And it's also why, as my rates have gotten higher, my client results have gotten so much bigger, and there's so many more millionaires and tens of millions of dollar errors and all that kind of stuff. So it has to be an integrity. And I would say that it is just as out of integrity to undercharge as it is to overcharge. So I'm also never, ever telling anybody to overcharge. But what I want you to do is I want you to dig up your own monster, and I'll walk you through the steps really quickly. but I want you to dig up your own monster, get that out of the way, that friction and that noise, so that you can have a much cleaner dialogue that reflects the true value of what you offer and what is going to get the best from and for your clients. And when I say the best from your clients, I'm not meaning the most money from your clients, but the best effort. Because at the end of the day, they're not investing in you, they're investing in themselves.
Exactly.
And our job is to do whatever it takes to get them where they want to be beyond where they would get themselves. That's why when I do my retreat in Bali, the investment is really big and the travel is really big. So nobody's ever there casually. And it's also the ultimate pattern interrupt. But I digress. Shall I tell you the 6 steps of the process?
Well, yes, because that was part of my other question. You said, well, my coach said, what does, your money guy look like? And you just, this vision popped into your head, and then you made it sound like, I don't want to say a little out there, but okay, what is she talking about? And how did the 1 or 2 questions just all of a sudden you had this guy, then you had this guy, and it was like, oh, okay, I get it. And obviously I know it did not happen like that in 10 seconds.
No, honestly, I was just freaking lucky. And it just kind of happened spontaneously through me. And then I had all these clients, and I wasn't marketing the money thing at all. I was still focusing on the entertainment industry, but my clients were human. And money is the number one excuse human beings have for everything we can't have, do, or be.
Absolutely.
And I have coached clients on public assistance, and I've coached billionaires, and everybody has drama.
That's life.
The bigger money can be, really, really big drama too. Mm-hmm. So I had all these clients and they all had money stuff. And it was like, well, Larry, why don't I try this out on them? In perfect transparency, my first few times out worked like a lead balloon, meaning it didn't. And I was like, what was wrong with you? In my head, not my voice, right? Yes. Why isn't it working for you? And I had to figure out, I had to reverse engineer exactly what had to happen to make it work. And that's when I broke it down to steps, because it doesn't work unless you go really, really deep into the pain. It's like, instead of going straight for money, honey, you have to do the money monster first. The money monster is your portal. In a way, it's like it's an ally, or as the Dalai Lama would say, a sacred friend. Like to the Dalai Lama, China, that murdered his family, was the sacred friend because it facilitated his evolution. The first step to uncovering the monster, first of all, you will never, ever, ever find it in the money story itself. And there are a lot of coaches who will say, change your money story, change your life. By the way, great marketing has never worked in my experience. If it works for you, do whatever works. That's always my disclaimer. It has never, ever worked for me.
Well, go in a little deeper. When they say change your money story, what do they mean by that? Give me an example.
Very super money beliefs, like money is evil, money is a tool. Great. The reason people are weird about money, we will talk loudly in great detail about our sex lives with our girlfriends. But when the money stuff comes, everybody gets very secretive and very worried, because money is like the soft white underbelly of human existence. It's really all the biggest issues of being a human being: our lovability, our worth, and other words for that are deservingness. Are we good enough? Our worth, safety. Like, does the world want me? Is the world a safe place? My right to exist? And power. Am I helpless, or do I have agency? Do I have power? Though all of that, those are all money issues. Like, our first experience of money is our parents, because they decided what we could have and told us if we were loved or what we were worth, made us feel safe or not safe, made us feel powerful or not powerful. This is like very primal stuff. And then it was reinforced with teachers and schoolmates and lovers and employers and world events and illnesses and accidents and plagues and wars. And all this. Is the world a safe place? Am I wanted? Is it welcoming? Am I worthy? Am I loved? Am I powerful? peaceful? Am I safe? All that stuff. So where I look is I look in what money represents: the love, the worth, the safety, the power. So I find monsters usually where you wouldn't expect to find them: eating disorders, illnesses, parental abuse, broken hearts. Maybe there's an accident. Maybe there's something that you did that you have shame about. I had one client years ago where her monster was, she was always second best to a sister, to a classmate, to in her marriage, whatever. There's just this very, very, very deep level of not enough.
Oh, not enough, some deep level on a personal level, not necessarily a deep level where it has to do with your belief of money or your limiting belief or what your
I want to
parents
get
taught
off the
you.
money
That's
topic.
totally, it has nothing to do with money.
It's going to be different for every person. Like yesterday, I had 2 clients and we were able to get through the whole process with each one in about a half hour. I've also had a client where it took me 8 hours to get deep enough because she had layers and layers and layers of resistance, which is nothing but self-protection. And it's my job to make it safe to change. One of my big motto as a coach is change happens at the speed of safety. And if something isn't changing, something isn't safe. And that's how we know there's a monster, whether it's money or love or health, because I've coached all 3. 10 years after I slayed my money monster, I slayed my love monster. I met my husband, first husband ever. I was already 45 and I met him 2 months later. We've been married 26 times in 21 countries.
I saw that.
Uncover the root cause, whatever has ever, just look at whatever has made you ever feel unloved, unsafe, unworthy, or helpless. Whatever it is for you, just go for the pain. And it's like you're like an attorney in the court of the universe, building a case for why your life sucks and why existence sucks. Pull in the Holocaust, pull in slavery, pull in climate change, pull in whatever amplifies it, but also make it really personal, your own very unique life experience. And sometimes it may be something that on the surface looks like it's nothing, but I had a client back around 2003 or 4, a guy whose root cause was he and a little girl, when they were toddlers, were playing doctor, checking out each other's parts.
Yep.
I did that, right? And an adult came in and we don't remember what the adult said or how the adult felt, but he remembers the shame.
Yes.
And that shame impacted through his adult life, his relationship with women and money. And that's where we found the monster.
Wow.
So step number 1 is uncover the root cause. Step number 2 is give the root cause personhood. And this is why I'm so dismissive of change your money story, change your life, is because money is abstract. It doesn't, we invented it. And now with crypto, it's like, what could be more make-believe than that? Like, it's all make-believe. We make believe that one purse is worth $5,000 and one is $5, but they're both bags. It's a collective make-believe. But what it represents is real: the love, the worth, the safety, the power. When we make it a person feels real. Flesh. It's what we know. It's why we make everything personal, why we make our countries a person, why we make our cats a person. Well, they already are, but our boats or car, whatever. Because we know what it's like to have relationships with human beings as human beings. So when we make money a person, it becomes very real. And it's also easier to get rid of because it's flesh. It has borders. So you give everything that you don't want in your life experience, everything wrong, every hurt, every wound, every injustice, and you put it in your monster and you make that person real to you. And it's not you and it's not your parents. Because in step number 3, you're going to kill it. And not just kill it, you're going to obliterate it, annihilate it, leave no bloody bits so that it is gone. like total vacuum. My crowd, my clients veer very, very heavily into the love and light and even the vegan crowd. Here I am saying, get violent and bloody. It's jarring because I won't even watch a horror movie. I'm just like,
I'm
you
with
know,
you. Not for
but
me.
there's power in making that choice that only one of us is going to survive. And I choose me and I reject you and I annihilate you. And there's a lot of spiritual support for this. You've got Durga and Kali in India, and you've got Saint Michael in Catholicism or whatever archetype you want to tune into, but you get to be that force that says, thou shalt not pass in heavy Monty Python tones, right? And until it is gone, and that's step 3, is you annihilate the monster by any means necessary. It's your imagination is the limit. Clients have used lightsabers, flamethrowers, machetes, fiery pits. One client ran over her monster with a monster truck. Just whatever it takes until it is gone. There's no trace. It's totally binary. If there's a little bit left over, make a little monster, get rid of that, keep going until it is gone. At which point, it'll feel weird. That's actually the exact word that both clients used yesterday, because it's something you've never felt before in your whole life, because that monster has been with you your whole life. It was like passed down intergenerationally. And now it's gone for the first time. And it may feel light. And it may, I've had clients on the other side of the country say, wow, the sun just came out, which I think is like really cool. Or it may feel scary. All of this is great. It feels different. Now we go to step 4, which is now you get to meet your new relationship with money. And when the monster is all gone, all that remains is love. So this new person will feel like love embodied. Extra points if this person is hot.
You want to make them hot, you can, right? It's your guy.
Here's why I like that. I like the lover archetype because, especially for us women, it makes us feel beautiful. For men, it makes us feel heroic. And it just that kind of love smooths out a lot of like little prickly, woundy parts inside of us. But most importantly, because lovers are equals. Your money honey is not Santa Claus, is not Jesus. I had a client who thought of Jesus and I asked, is it his sexy Jesus? She ended up with Antonio Banderas instead. That worked better.
Okay.
Not Oprah, not Gandhi. It's somebody
Right.
who is your partner. Again, you have the body, so you have the power in the relationship, who just sees you through the eyes of love so that you get to see yourself as you really, really are. You can just set aside your neuroses and all that kind of stuff and see yourself, how gorgeous you are exactly as you are, whatever your age, weight, whatever. You see yourself through the eyes of love. And that's step number 4. Step number 5 is you have a conversation with your money honey. You can steal my first conversation to get started. What do you need from me so you can be with me the way you want to be with me? And step number 6 is concrete, measurable action. Action is magical. If you want real, physical, real world results, it's like Magic 101. It's the physical activity that kind of ties a bow. It gets it out of all this woo-woo ethereal thought and actually gets you back into your body and back into the real world. And what that action is, it's just anything that demonstrates to you and by extension, your money honey, that you're committed to this totally new relationship. And the action may be money related and it may not be money related. But as a relationship partner, you must keep your commitment because you will feel better about yourself and you will feel more worthy and you will feel more powerful. And your relationship with life and yourself and money has completely changed. And then the money stories that come after that, they're sort of like the garnish. They're like a really nice, they're great for my marketing, but they're a side dish to a whole new experience of life.
Wow. Let me ask you, how come there's some people out there, and look, maybe that's not true. I don't know what everybody's history is, But how come it seems like some people are just able to figure out the money thing from the get go and others aren't? Do they have no monsters? It's hard to believe. It seems like most of us have monsters of some kind.
I think everybody has a monster of some kind. I'm not going to force a money monster on anybody. I believe that the universe tends to get our attention as like a spiritual teacher primarily through money, love, and health. And especially with health, if we're all mortals, we're all going to be facing that at some point. And I think I told you about my billionaire mentor from years back. He started out really poor. He was a door-to-door salesman and then became a fashion industry icon and real estate mogul and all that kind of stuff. And by the time I met him, I thought he had a really, really clean, healthy relationship with money. And he was putting together a peace library in the Middle East with and all that kind of stuff. But he loved what I did. I also remember being at a friend's wedding and talking with this guy who was like a real estate guy with these billion-dollar deals. And he was really peacocking. It was very cute about telling me about the multi-billion-dollar deal he signed that day. Then he started telling me about all of his ex-wives. Yes, it appears he, like, from his point of view, he has a great relationship with all these ex-wives and all of his kids. He grew up on the streets as an orphan. So he's really big into philanthropy and the kind of organizations that helped him. And what I heard talking to him is no, money is his safe place. That's where he feels powerful. But relationship
Mm.
is where his monster is. And he wasn't looking for any help there. So I wasn't going to start diagnosing him and any of that kind of stuff. But that was his unsafe place because of losing his parents at such a young age. I did coach a billionaire about a decade ago. And again, he was actually a Palestinian billionaire who rose up from poverty and then made billions with real estate. Apparently, real estate is the way to make billions, just based on who I know. And his big pain was his son was doing nothing with his life because his son had nothing to overcome. So his son would buy these multi-million-dollar cars and airplanes and just trash him. And he, as a father, was feeling like a failure. So that's where his monster showed up.
Mm.
And then people, even at that level of money, there's the fear of loss. It can separate. Are there people who start out with like no money or really bad money patterns? Yes, you're looking at one.
Mhm.
And I inherited that from my father, who died in 2019 being owed millions of dollars that he was embarrassed to collect, which has left his widow in like not the situation that I would want for her.
Mhm.
By the way, I love my dad. I love my stepmom, but I inherited all of my father's stuff. And that became the lead, which is actually the fuel for my transformation and my opportunity to help other people.
Which is just wonderful. I want to know, where do you stand on the law of attraction, that you need to be comfortable spending money, or I don't mean on $5,000 purses, putting your money out there to work for you, even though you might not feel like you're going to get it back. In other words, it's something scary, but you've got to put it out there in order to attract it.
I would say sometimes you don't.
Okay.
I don't think there's a hard and fast always the rule here. What I would suggest is do the deep inner work of facing and slaying and rejecting and annihilating your monster, and then have a conversation with your money honey. And sometimes your money honey will say, don't invest in that.
Right.
And sometimes your money honey will say, yeah, go ahead, even though it's scary. And I really don't like, because it feels like it's used manipulatively in our industry. There's so much scarcity thinking in our prosperity teachers, and it can be manipulative, like you have to spend money to make money when it's the right time. If your first job is to have a place to lay your head, I like to, instead of saying I can't afford it, to say it's not a financial priority for me at this time, because it takes me out of the victim of the money monster to I am choosing what my priority is.
Yes.
There came a year when I decided at the beginning of the year to behave as if I had already succeeded at a certain level.
Right.
And that was the year that I stopped being Miss Cheapy Pants,
Mm.
started investing. And that was the year that I had that six
Right. Where
figures
you're,
in months. But
yes.
was it was in conversation and alignment with what wanted to happen. There's a lot of, for me, intuition involved.
Yes. And I do understand that. And I think many of my decisions that felt illogical from me, because I have quite the logical brain, but something kept telling me, and that was my intuition. And she's right most of the time. I agree. You have to listen. I love the term, by the way, money honey. I got to write that down. I got to remember that. And I have to envision my money honey. I love that. That's a great coined term. So we could talk the rest of the day, and you've shared so much information and food for thought. Is there anything else that you'd like to, final thoughts to leave our listeners?
I've covered a lot of material in an hour, and I've
Yes.
really tried to, like, pack in like I'm force feeding a French goose.
Yes. So where do we
Pretty
start? How
clearly.
about that? Where do we start? Let's
Yeah,
make
I know that I've packed in a lot. I don't expect to
yes.
master this in an hour. What I invite you to do is go to my website, morganarae.com. It's just my name at a .com at the bottom. There will be links, I'm sure. And
Yes.
there you can go at your own pace. I have a free 4-part money magnetic video series. So some of it will be review and some of it will be stuff that we didn't cover here. I have my money love quiz, which is also really useful for just seeing where you are on the journey. I believe we are all on the same journey of financial freedom in order to focus completely on love, lifestyle, and legacy. So that quiz is just like, where are you on the journey? And based on your responses, I recommend what to do next. And I always include free stuff. And I also have hundreds of articles and videos on my blog. Probably the easiest way, next step, would be to get my book, Financial Alchemy 12 Months of Magic and Manifestation. You'll find the link on my homepage. I came out with my 10-year updated anniversary this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I had tons of success with the original 2013 book, including a client who had her first $250,000 sales month before we'd ever met, before she became my client. Now she owns the company that she used to sell for. And last year I looked at the book and I had that kind of cringy, like, content shame where it's like, oh, I don't say things like that anymore. And I know
Mm.
some stuff now that I didn't know then. So I updated the book. That is, I think, the best curated guide through the process. And 12 months of magic and manifestation is 12 months of staying on track, support, just a couple minutes a day to stay in connection with your money honey and strategically accomplish all of your goals as if by magic.
Wonderful. Well, Morgana, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being on the show and sharing such wonderful information with us.
Thank you. If anything interesting happens, please go to my website and drop me a note and let me know. Because that's my kink.
Exactly.
That's what makes me happy.
Me too. So I understand that. We all definitely will do that.
Thank you.
So thank you.